Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
Backstory. I was 15 years old when I attended this sports camp for the summer holiday. I had to go to this camp because my parents worked during the day and they didn't trust me at home all the time. Although I was not rich, this camp was relatively expensive, and I heard the pay for the instructors was pretty good. I made a lot of friends, and so far, my time there has been really fun and enjoyable. That was until this new instructor came. Let's call her Sarah. Now, Sarah looked like a really good instructor, and everyone in the management staff really liked her. But when she was alone with us, either playing sports or doing art, her personality completely changed. She would turn from a really nice woman to an evil old lady in an instant. She would start commanding us to do things for her. She kept on bossing us around and kept complaining about how much she was getting paid. She didn't even call us by our names. She would just point or address us like she didn't know who we were. She obviously didn't want to be there, and this attitude started making my sports camp experience really bad. After about a month, me and a few of my friends had had enough of her bad behavior. We all went to management and told them how we were getting treated. They took this into consideration and said they would see what they could do. By then, we thought it was all game over and we had won. We walked off really happy with ourselves, and you would think that this was the end of Sarah. Oh boy, are you wrong? The management went to inspect what was going on and started to watch Sarah. Something similar to an Austin inspection. But whenever they were in the room, Sarah put on her angel mask and pretended all was fine, and she was the lovely instructor she interviewed for. After a few days of this pretense, the management thought that nothing was wrong and told us that they were just wasting their time here. They told Sarah that me and a few other kids had told them that she was being a bad instructor and snaked her out. They left, and that was when my life was hell around her. She knew that she was finally safe from management and started bullying my friends and I. She pulled us aside and started lecturing us about how we were just brats and she was the adult and nothing we can do will get her sacked. Every day, she just made us sit out of activities and excluded us because we were naughty. Every single day of this camp was rubbish because we would just sit out and watch our peers play games and have fun. Whenever another instructor came, she would just say that we were causing trouble, and this would just decrease our popularity with the other adult. That was until a brilliant idea struck my mind. In the cam, we were allowed our phones if we were over 14, so whenever I went to cam, I would just record the whole day. After that day, I would go to my computer back home and edit all the parts using where she was remotely bullying and put it all together in a new tape. Not important, but I remember listening to Minecraft music while doing this. This tape varied from flirting with the other male instructors, calling kids by different names, which was occasionally racist, or even denying to take my friend to the nurse because he wasn't hurt. After a week, I was ready. I presented the recording to the management team and they were devastated. After they heard everything, they told Sarah to come in and told me to leave. They had to ask a lot of other teenagers as the witnesses, and after that, Sarah was asked to leave. The last day she was there, although at the time I was not sure that she was fired, she looked at me with eyes of loathing and sadness. I gave her a massive smile and I walked back home, the smile staying with me the whole time. I was out running typical Saturday morning errands with my youngest son and grandson. We stopped to get gas. The pay at the pump option was offline, so everyone was having to go to the window to prepay. Of course, since people had to go to the window, they were making impulse purchases of lottery, cigarettes, drinks, snacks. 12 pumps, so the line was kind of long. As I'm walking to the pump, I heard a car horn and someone yelled, "Get out of my way!" I heard a few others exclaiming things such as, "What the hell? What are you doing? And look out." I watched in horror as this lady literally drove through the line of people to pull the front of her car almost right up to the gas shack. Elderly lady gets out of her car, waving her cane around, trying to hit people to keep them out of her way. She was yelling, "Get the hell out of my way. I have to buy my cigarettes and lottery tickets now. Go back to your cars. Pay over there. Move it. Out of my way." The cashier inside was yelling over the intercom for her to stop, to get back in her car, move it, and wait in line. Elderly lady yells back, "Screw you and all these idiots. I come here every Saturday at this exact time to get my lottery. I have to buy them at this exact time. Cashier, ma'am, I'm calling the police." You endangered every person in line and myself had your brakes failed. You will not be buying anything from here ever. What you did, your face, car, and license plate are all on camera. Cashier called the police, but several people had already called. EMS and police were on their way. Elderly lady, I don't care what you think you're doing. What you are gonna do is give me a rattles off list of lottery and carton of cigarettes, and you're gonna do it now. Cashier, no ma'am, I'm not. Cashier then asks over the intercom if anyone is actually hurt. No one is seriously hurt, but a few were bumped by her car and cane. The police showed up at that time and walked up to the elderly lady. Police officer 1, Mom, I'm going to ask you to please step away from the window and talk to me. Elderly lady, not until I get my damn lottery tickets. Police officer 2, ma'am, you're not getting any lottery tickets today. Please step over here. At this, she picked up her cane and started swinging it around. Police officer Roan, ma'am, put the cane down. If you don't come to talk to us peacefully and stop using your cane as a weapon, we will be forced to taser you. EMS showed up along with police officer 3-4. Police officer 3. To the crowd, everyone please step away and to the ambulance. If you are injured in any way, let us know. Police officer 4. We need all witnesses willing to make a statement to come this way. Police officer 5-6 show up along with another ambulance. Police officer 1 and 2 are still trying to talk to the elderly lady, and she was having none of it. At this point, she started grabbing things nearby, oil, car accessories, etc., and throwing them at police officer 1-2. Police officer 5-6 approached very slowly. Police officer Roan, Mom, at this time, I'm going to advise you that you are under arrest and you are resisting. Now please, put the cane in the ground and put your hands up. Screw you! I didn't do anything. Those people that were blocking the line should be the ones under arrest. She threw another bottle of motor oil at them at this point. Police officer 2. Ma'am, this is your final warning. Put the cane on the ground, hands up. Any further aggression from you and you will be tased. Oh, big bad cop going to taser an old woman for trying to buy lottery tickets. I don't think so. I'm going home and you all should be ashamed for treating an old lady like this. She actually tried to get back into her car. Police officer 1, 2, 5, and 6 moved towards her and police officer 1 reached for her arm. Whack! Cane right upside police officer own head. Police officer 2 tased her finally. Since she was elderly, the second EMS, workers immediately came over and checked her after they got the cuffs on it. Everyone stuck around to see what happened and to give their statements. As far as I could tell, no one was hurt except police officer 1. We drove back by the gas station after picking up groceries and the tow truck was just then loading up her car. Background. After posting my HOA, a board-gutting story, I figured it was time to share another story that happened only a few months ago and show that some good can come from HOAs that don't have power-drunk buffoons running them. During my tenure, I have seen all sorts of weird appeals and issues that we had to resolve, from pond management problems to neighborly disputes. The issue is this story, however, centers around a specific renter in our neighborhood along with their terrible management company. Main story. At the end of every quarterly meeting that we have for the community, members have a chance to stay back and review issues with the board case. By case. Typically, this consists of community members who have fines that want to appeal or settle. This time, however, a regular attendee came in which surprised all of us. She had never once had a fine, helped with some committees, and had 2 amazing kids, one of which was special needs, important later. She sat down and calmly set down a folder in front of us, and that's when I knew she was serious. Then she began to explain how she needed help from the board with an issue with her neighbor. She described in painful detail about how her neighbor had been digging up and taking her flowers and had kept flipping around the basketball hoop that her special needs son used regularly. She had even installed a camera and had video evidence proof, which she showed to us. Immediately, I became concerned and told her to call the police immediately. She looked down and informed us that she had, and the police told her to go through the HO. First, while that still made no sense to me, I said that we could look into how we could help. She thanked us with teary eyes and left after that. I walked out of the meeting scratching my head on how I could help without even really knowing what I could do. When I got home, I looked up the address of the neighbor that was bothering her to discover that the house belonged to a renter and property owner that had a long history of issues with the HOA. While I'm not really allowed to discuss specifics here, let's just say that the property has had 10 tenants in 7 years and still has some serious outstanding issues with the board. I looked up the property company and discovered that they owned over 50 houses across multiple towns in my area and had a DU rating with the Better Business Bureau. I contacted my other board members and asked their opinion on the situation while providing them with the findings of my research. One of them reminded me that the management company had sent a representative to the meeting prior and tried to appeal a whole host of fines with the excuse that they simply did not want to pay them. I had honestly forgotten that it was the same house. Not to mention, they also tried to claim that since their tenants did not want to pay, neither should show the property company. We denied all of their requests since they were years behind in many fees and dues. I drove by the property and realized how bad it looked. The grass was over a foot high, there were dog chains in the front, and their flowers were of course immaculate, and the neighboring houses were missing. I saw the basketball hoop flipped around for myself and could not help but let my jaw drop. I could not imagine how that lady felt for the atrocities that she had to deal with having neighbors like that. I took some pictures and drove back. Revenge. I contacted the board's legal consultant and asked if there was anything that we could do to help. Since the property ownership company had refused to pay dues and fines for over 8 years since buying the house, we did have the authority to foreclose and then put the house for sale through the bank that had the loan, which I thought was a little strange that corporate housing company would mortgage, given the amount of houses that they own, but oh well, I did not like the idea of foreclosing just yet. So I set up a meeting request with the tenant. I sent a request for him to talk to the landowner since we were not allowed to interact with renters and made my list of him. When the next meeting rolled around, the same representative from the company that showed up a few meetings ago was there. He stayed around, and when it was time for his individual time slot, he sat down and calmly asked what was wrong. My vice president started with the list of fines and past due payments and asked if when they planned to pay it. He replied calmly that they had no intention of paying them. I then asked him if he knew that means the company could lose the house to foreclosure. He looked sheepish for a second and then replied that they had great lawyers since they had dealt with this through other neighborhoods. We tried to reason with him a bit more, but it was clear that they thought that they were above the community standards and owed us nothing. I personally like to wait 10 years before finally deciding to foreclose on a delinquent house, since no account has ever had that long of a history with the HOA, as we are usually able to resolve the issue. HOAs need to use that authority extremely carefully. Since this was clearly never going to be resolved, the board voted to start the proceedings to foreclose on the property. I reached out to the other hoes where the company held property and found out 2 of them were doing the same thing. While it is currently an ongoing case, there is a chance that we can also file a class action lawsuit against the company for property negligence. We will see what happens, but I would love to run them out of business since all they do is get bad renters, ruin houses, and ignore HOA rules. I also got into contact with our community's police contact and informed him of the flower stealing and trespassing. He was stunned to hear that the department had turned this lady away and offered to help. She reached out to me a few days ago to let me know that there is now an investigation into the matter and that she's trying to sue him for stealing property. I offered to testify if it ever came to that, and I'm sure that she will win. Morale of the story: be nice to your neighbors, and property ownership companies are terrible for communities. Now, here I go again at America's favorite drive-thru, Wendy's. A lady beeps on through and I give her my standard greeting, just as unnecessarily flowery as Jet Li's martial arts prowess, and my painfully, overly, parenthetical writing style. Welcome to wonderful Wendy's this Wednesday. How can I help you? Lady Crass replies, what did you say? What are you saying? Ma'am, I said welcome to Wendy's, so welcome to Wendy's. Would you like to place an order? Oh, you sounded stupid. I want a kid's meal with a medium chocolate frosty, then another medium chocolate frosty, and She continued to have her run-on sentence trail off before I told her the bad news. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but the kid's meal is standard junior size frosty, or you can upgrade to a small if you want. Yeah, okay, that's fine, thank you. She replied very nicely, which surprised me. So I decided to be nice and kind and give her the kid's meal. A medium frosty anyway. As snide and petty as I can get, I don't funk around with the kids' food. I'm nice to kids because they have an excuse for acting a fool. Foreshadowing. She came to the window livid. I honestly checked the screen to make sure she was the same person, like literally that livid. I expected to see Ashton Kutcher. It wasn't a long wait either. I hand out the kids' meal with her additional Frosty and Sage scowls through the payment process, pans then looks at me while inching away. Then she stops abruptly. She backs up. In the drive-thru up, almost hits the car behind her. Almost hits the wall. Throws a Frosty at me. Spitting mad, literally. I told you I wanted medium. I ordered the other one a medium. Give me what I paid for. Enter MC. Before I said anything, I took her medium Frosty back, gloved, and tossed it. I then gave her the small that came with her kid's meal. She got to see me pull a small cup out of a well-labeled, easy-to-see cup holder as we recently adjusted our Frosty sizes. She saw her malicious compliance manifest in real time. As low stakes as it was, I loved it so much, especially when I realized this kid meal was clearly for her and her resting butch-faced companion. My companion stepped in and said what I was thinking. Yeah, so he already had given you both medium, so here's what you paused for effect. Paid for. They were transmogrified into their previous night. Quiet. People again, as they slowly rotated forward. Her impersonation of the crass lady was as spot on as it was only for the 2 words paid for. It was so great I was jealous. But in that moment, it took all I had not to burst out laughing as they drove off into the sunset. Love my homie number 1.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.